With solutions, our new area in a way, let me repeat or bring back in mind what we said before the coffee break. With solutions, it's about capturing value beyond engine and service. We want to enter into business, again, where we as DEUTZ have the right to play, more than that, the right to win. We want to get in areas where we have a higher coverage of the value chain. It's good to be a good tier one supplier, but it's great to be an integrator and to provide solutions, comprehensive solutions for the customers. And that'll help us to achieve the sustainability in the long term. We have two parts of that. The first part, our more tailored new technology offering, which we used to call green, again, based on the demands from the markets and the customers. And then as a second block, the energy business, which we want to continue to build up. And with that as a starting point, I would hand over to Bert van Hasselt, who will guide you through the first block, the new technology part. So Bert, thank you, and floor is yours.
Thank you, Sebastian. So my name is Bert van Hasselt, and since the 1st of May I'm heading business unit Green, but now we call it New Tech because we want to have a crisp name also in the market. New technology. I want to guide you a bit through what we have today on offering, because you can imagine there is a wide array of opportunities in front of us, but first focus on the basis we have today. And today we have two offerings. On the one side, e-products, and on the other side, the H2 engines, the hydrogen engines. On the e-products, I will zoom in a little bit later on, more on the e-products, but there we have at the core the battery. We have two techniques, the LFP battery and the NMC battery. So we can offer the market also those two sorts of batteries. And we can also add a 360 volt power system. The 360 volt power system can operate with engines or motors from 40 kW all the way up to what we are currently developing, 150 kW. And that's about the limit of a 360 volt system, because if you go beyond, you need 800 volt system. And the markets we focus on today are compressors and pumps, are ground support equipment, and ground support equipment also with a retrofit solution, so that we can take our diesel engines and put in an electrical power system just to capture the CO2 already in the existing equipment. We are still green, so we want to focus on that as well. And we are also looking into on-road application, and that's a new field where we retrofit on-road tractor units. On the other side, we have the H2 engine, a 7.8, based on our 7.8 diesel engine. That gave us the advantage that we could use already 80% similar technology, and we didn't have to develop a complete new engine. And also there, we have the initial projects completed. And as I told earlier, we are focusing there on the genset and rail applications, because those are the markets also on from an infrastructure structural point of view. Those are to be ready the first for use of hydrogen engines as we see it. And I will not zoom in too much on the whole infrastructure, because we can talk for hours about that, but everyone know the issue with infrastructure, both on the E side as well on the H2 side. E-products. I think we have a unique value proposition. First of all and foremost, we have in-house the brain development for a battery, the battery management system. That's an in-house developed system made by the company we know as Futavis, which is also part of the business unit New Technology. And here we have developed a modular design which can handle from 40 volts all the way up to 1000 volts. So with that system, we can offer a wide array of applications also to customers who are only interested to buying a battery management system. Secondly, applications. Over the years, in Classic, we gained experience in how to power various pieces of equipment. And based on that knowledge, we also now have the capabilities to translate that into battery solutions, into e-power systems, e-drive systems. And there we can also use that knowledge to go into the retrofit. And retrofit means that we, as a producer of power systems, also listen to our customers and accompany them by making together a retrofit solution, which is quite unique in the world of producers of engines like we are. And then two other things are important. Firstly, you just saw it, we have a very wide service network, which we also use. Meaning we have trained high voltage mechanics who are on crucial locations where we see that our customers are operating their pieces of equipment. So we can also give the support for any in-field cases they need service. And the last but not least, in my discussions with customers and also prospects, which is much more important, I don't need to introduce DEUTZ. Everyone knows that. I maybe have to explain why we are in the E side of business. But DEUTZ as such, everyone knows. And that brand equity, that's a huge value. So all in all, with these four core elements, we want to offer that one-stop shop. With us, you can retrofit all the way to your production for series products. And that's for us one of the entries into the market. If we zoom in on the value chain, we believe we have a strong position there already. Of course, it can be stronger. But if we go to the left side, cell production, I think there are some countries who are well equipped to do a very efficient cell production. And I don't think we will enter into that side of business. But if we look into manufacturing battery packages, we think we have already a very strong position there. And later on, during lunch, you can go into the R&D workshop, which is behind there, and you can see for yourself that we know what we are doing there, and that we're also developing new ways of producing a battery. The other thing is the integration, what I already talked about. So also in this integration of e-drives, we have a stronghold. And we know how to electrify and how to really make a solution which works and keeps on working. And last but not least, again, our service network. So we think that we have the potential here for strategic partnerships. And maybe we can do something in the inverter side of business. But also, grow our business based on these anchor points, I would say. And we go beyond PowerPoint, but we also have already projects. We have projects with a couple of fixed customer projects, and we have many offers in the market. We told already about Kerche, where we deliver them NMC batteries in the street sweepers. But that gives us also the opportunity internationally to talk to other manufacturers of these pieces of equipment. And we are also discussing whether to implement our complete system in bigger street sweepers. In the middle, Smiths Cargobull. They use our LFP battery to power their refrigerated trailers. So this is a new field, also for Smiths Cargobull. But on the last IAA in Hanover, there was a huge demand for this solution. So we also see there that the market is slowly but gradually picking up. And last but not least, Putzmeister, there we successfully implemented our 360 volt system, which is, by the way, a series product, just as the batteries. And we are expanding their business all the way up to Canada and North America. So what I wanted to show here, that yes, we have our traditional market, but we are also entering into new markets for DEUTZ with new demands where we have to learn new rules of the game, so to speak. But we also need to be aware of this. The structural market demand in our market will take a bit. We have all seen the story of the passenger cars, which were, flying high and then dropping deep, and slowly but gradually picking up. And we believe that going forward, from 26, 27, we will see also our market picking up. Because as I said, the infrastructure will be ready. That's the key element. The product is there. It's about the infrastructure. And we need to invest there more, and we can't do that ourselves. It's governments who need to do that. So what's the plan? Based on the customer perspectives I've put here on the left-hand side, we are now, solidifying our foundation, organization-wise, product-wise. Which products do we pursue, and which products we say, okay, the market is simply not ready, or it is too far away from our core knowledge. Then we want to start discussions with a selected group of bigger companies to see whether we can make an alliance going forward. And then, as I mentioned here, in 25, 26, we will scale up, prepare our production, and in the end, our target for new tech is about 300 million euros sale in 2030. That's E. Now we go to H2, the other leg I'm standing on. This technology is CO2 free according to the latest EU regulation, although it's a combustion engine. It's known for high performance, this engine. It is a very good economical alternative to any fuel cell. Because going forward, H2, fuel cell, combustion engine, those two will battle probably, but we believe that this combustion engine is a very good economical alternative in respect of TCO, if you compare the fuel cell to a combustion engine. And obviously, DEUTZ is known for its high reliability, so that's beyond questioning. And also important to note is that the efficiency is already 40%, and we're still working on it, we're still improving it, and maybe the goal is to be at that diesel efficiency. And also here I want to show two projects. First, we have put, no, not we, Stadler have put two of our engines in their newest RS2 Zero. And that's the next successor for the Regio shuttle. A lot of people in Germany will probably know this train. And this has two engines, as I mentioned. It has the H2 tanks on the roof, because at the bottom there are the batteries. And the first trial run of this train will be in Thüringen in 25. And then obviously Stadler were ramping up their production, but they have already demand from other states in Europe. And then we will start end 26, beginning 27, the deliveries of this engine. And it's not only Stadler. During the last InnoTrans in Berlin, I had discussions with all major train manufacturers, also the ones who are using fuel cell at the moment, because they are interested in this use case and they want to explore it further. So there is for us all the reason to focus on this part of the market. And then the other one, there's already been some news about it. The first 4 of the 100 planned H2 engines in Beijing were delivered on September 11th, and there was a big meeting, and also politics, and that was important also in China, that there is high political support for this development, and only those engines have already an enormous potential to save CO2 out of exhaust gases, which are now just let out in the air. So I wanted to show to you that we have already a foundation, and on that foundation we will build our new tech business, and we will expand there, on the one hand in the sales force, on the other hand in R&D and product. So I can only say more to come, and with that I gladly hand over to Sebastian.
Thank you, Bert, and thank you very much for showing that the products are ready and that the market is working on its readiness. Let's put it that way. And that brings me to a little bit of a round down of that topic before we move on to the energy part. It's important that in the last 3-4 years, I wouldn't say we invested without limits. That would be false to say. But we were certainly not as close with the available funds as we were in our classic business, where we were much more stringent to the products and projects which were specific. And talked earlier about speedboats, and that's also one of the reasons why we had Bert presenting here, because he's in charge as the CEO of New Technology Unit and has the full P&L responsibility for that business. And then jointly, obviously, when looking at the P&L, you need to look at top line and bottom line and resulting and the differences in between. So we said now, we showed the proof of concept, both in E as well as in hydrogen. And now we need to see, how all these promising projects actually materialize, rather than investing in the next hydrogen engine, for example. And that's why we said, no, we need this smart, entrepreneurial, results-oriented approach, and that leads us also to reducing the R&D budget in new technologies next year from roughly 30 million right now. We expect to, I wouldn't even say cut it down, because we're actually focusing it, and there's no need to spend another 30 million next year until the market really picks up. So, but it contributes obviously to the bottom line savings here in R&D, which Oliver indicated in his part at the beginning, and we'll see later when looking at the numbers again. Right, let's move on to energy, our genset business. So first of all, before I hand over to David in a few minutes, what we see, and this is not us, this is fairly aligned global view on the market growth, a significant growth in the energy supply and consequent the demand. We're talking here about almost 34,000 exajoule, and an exajoule is 278 terawatt hours, so you can imagine how much energy that is. And where is that coming from? That doubling of electricity demand and capacity, and obviously the share of renewable energy, and that's so important also to achieve the CO2 targets which we as society have. So that's the growth, but we see huge problems that the grids expand in the same speed. And with that growth of supply, demand, renewable energy, but also that instability in the growth, we have a mismatch. And that mismatch, and I think it becomes very clear in lots of particular reports from the United States, so that mismatch is not only relevant for the developing countries where you would imagine it, but it's also very relevant for the developed countries. For us in Germany, it's a rare occasion as of today that we have power outages. But it will happen more frequently in the future. But for our friends in the United States, I wouldn't say it's a daily occasion, but it happens quite regularly that you don't have only a minute of outage, but sometimes even several minutes or hours, depending what hurricane or blizzard just went over the country. And a solution, and we'll put that here on purpose on page because we talk about solutions, is we'll see more and more decentralized energy supply and the demand for such, and we also see more and more microgrids developing. And in a microgrid, I'll show that in a few minutes, gensets play a key role even within the change of energy mix. Coming to the US, in particular, why we and others see this growth in decentralized energy supply. Extreme weather events, more and more frequent occurrence of such. I mean, in certain parts of the US, Florida, hurricanes are known for ages, but the situation certainly gets worse. Even for non-critical areas, the infrastructure is simply insufficient, underinvestment over decades. You can't make up for infrastructure or for lack of infrastructure within a year. We see that in the German railway system quite clearly as well. Renewable energies, increasing demand. And obviously renewable energies tend to be fairly unreliable because the sun is not shining 24/7 and the wind's not blowing 24/7. And it becomes clear, remembering the picture from before, if 2/3 of the energy supply are unreliable, that's not great news for stability. Relocation of production to the US, government subsidy, reshoring, and then obviously public investment. Not only public investment, but also in infrastructure, sort of the new critical infrastructure like data centers. The growth for data centers are incredible, and all of them need to be run in a reliable way. And that doesn't work when the electricity supply is unreliable due to the increase of renewable sources. I mentioned microgrid very briefly, and a microgrid, I mean, all of you have probably heard of a microgrid, and a microgrid is, well, it's pretty simple. I mean, in terms of the structure, right? There are different sources of energy. We use here an example with renewable sources. So as we talk about the US, if there's like a supermarket and it's in Arizona, probably solar energy plays a major role. If it's in Chicago, probably wind plays a major role. And there is a storage, a battery storage, but all of those microgrids need one thing, regardless whether they're in the sunny or in windy areas. They need a genset, because if those fails, you don't want to stop. And the US is in particular interesting because we know all that the Americans like to be as autonomous as possible. I remember once, I think, David, we spoke to an investor in the US, and they told me, well, you know, in the US, only 5% of the private households have a genset at home. I said, well, I don't know anyone who has a genset at home, you know, to stabilize my power supply. So at least we see there's a bit of a different mindset on that. But why we want to show that is that, you know, to sort of solve or explain the potential mismatch between growth in renewable energy supply and also growth in diesel generator sets. Because although on the first glance it may be in conflict, in a second glance it's actually fundamentally connected. And with that, David, please explain us a bit more about energy in the US, because you're suffering more of that than me.
Oh, yes. So first off, thank you, Sebastian. My name's David Evans. I run our Americas business, as well as, with the acquisition of Blue Star, our energy business. So the issues with the extreme weather events and grid reliability are real. About a week and a half ago, we had Hurricane Helene come up through Florida into Georgia. I live in Atlanta. And then it went on into North Carolina. So we were the last house on our street to still have power. The rest of the houses in the neighborhood didn't. And then there are people in North Carolina that still don't have power. We did hear that the Blue Star gensets worked great. Some of them were still running over a week later, and that's what our customers are looking for. But first off, so Sebastian talked a little bit about why decentralized energy and power is interesting for DEUTZ, and then the North American market is particularly interesting. One, it's the largest single market for gensets in the world, and it's also growing at a fast rate for all of the reasons that Sebastian mentioned. There's also, just by all of these different trends, there's a lot going on in the market. So we split the market up into several pieces. You've got the other market segments, which is really the commercial, industrial, as well as residential, growing relatively fast. But then data centers have been growing at a dramatic rate in the North American market, as you now have cloud computing, AI driving a lot of that demand. And then microgrids, and we split out rental equipment here as well, because DEUTZ is well positioned with rental customers like United Rentals and Sunbelt, and that's because they buy a lot of aerial work platforms, telehandlers, pumps, and most of those have DEUTZ engines in them. So their service teams are very familiar with our engines. They like DEUTZ. And so we thought, well, maybe that's another opportunity for us as we look at this energy space to potentially sell product into these large rental companies. But another reason is we do also have an established team in North America, which gives us the opportunity to run and incubate businesses like this. So Blue Star Power Systems, we're really excited about this. I think Oliver mentioned it at the beginning. This acquisition really sends a message that we are serious about the energy business. We just closed on the acquisition in August. Blue Star is a full-scale provider of gensets from 20 kilowatts up to 2 megawatts. They are, well, I would call a mid-sized manufacturer now. If you look at the North American market, you've got a lot of small mom-and-pop shops, $10, $15 million, haven't really grown much over the last 20 years or so. Blue Star, 20 years in existence, founded by Doug Farforth out of a garage while he was in college, has grown every year in their existence, even during COVID and the great downturn. They are focused on North America, so primarily in the US, also Canada. Sell through distribution. They've got one direct customer right now that seems to be growing pretty well in the microgrid space. And they sell, as I said, diesel, gas gensets. They're also a distributor for ASCO transfer switches. And their service business is parts and very small, which we see as an opportunity, as does Blue Star. Oh, boy.
I'm the chief.
Sorry, I didn't know it'd start that quickly. So Doug was not able to be here today, so I am excited to let you hear directly from him why Blue Star's been so successful. And then we also have Joe Antonini, one of his distributors that they've worked with for a long time, give you a little bit more about the customer view. So with that, I'll hand over to Doug.
I'm Doug Farforth. I'm the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Blue Star Power Systems. I founded the company in 2004 in my garage, refurbishing used generator sets. And after a few years of doing that, we moved into the used market officially in 2006. And then not long after that, moved into selling product into the agricultural market.
Blue Star makes a product that is obviously very dependable, but it's not over-engineered. It does what it says it was gonna do. And that's all they're looking for. At the end of the day, that maintenance supervisor just wants to know, when I got a bad storm coming in, I got gens that are gonna support my community. A lot of businesses in the state of Florida need that power generation because they need that backup power because they don't need to go down.
The growth trajectory of our company has been phenomenal. Since we founded in 2004, we've grown our business every year. And in the last 3 to 4 years, we've seen growth rates of nearly 25 to 30%. And we expect that to continue into 25 and 26. So I think from a product perspective, the products and services we offer to the customer are not that much different from what our competitors offer. There's really two key differences, though, from a deliverable perspective. The first is our willingness and ability to customize product to exactly what the customer needs, not what we're going to give them.
We do a lot of retrofits. And you take an old generator with an old stub up air, they're not typically sitting inside where normally they're built today. It's in the middle of the tank. So now we have to custom this. And thank God they help us, and they custom not just the trailer mounts, but the standbys, because we get so many variables when you do retrofits on existing equipment.
The second feature is, how do we care for the customer? How do we respond to their needs, their requests? We have a culture here that is very passionate about taking care of the customer, and that shines through in every facet of how we touch the customer, from not only point of sale to as the product moves through manufacturing, but then after the service, how we take care of the product from a warranty perspective and its consumable life 5-10 years after the sale of the product.
I've called customers up and after a storm, and now we're on generator power, and they've been on it for weeks. And I'll ask them, so how's my Blue Stars doing? Oh, they're doing great. This old Generac over here, or this old product over here, man, it let me down, it failed, but your Blue Stars, Joe, they're running smooth.
We see the market for generators growing relatively consistently as it has the last few years for the next 5 to 10. There's a lot of demand for our product, and as the country moves to more of a sustainable growth trajectory from a green energy perspective, and implements more solar and wind and battery backup, which are all great things, you still need the reliability of a generator to tide you through. It's a really exciting time to be a part of Blue Star. You get to come to work every day in this beautiful building. You get to build great products that make differences in the lives of the people we sell them to. You 100% get to be part of an amazing culture and people that care about you. And now we're part of the DEUTZ family, which is also exciting because they're going to bring a lot of new opportunity to us. So I think the opportunity to continue to grow and be part of this company for a long time is appealing to a lot of people.
So, hope you enjoyed that. So, as they just explained, their philosophy and their approach have allowed them to achieve impressive growth over their existence, especially in the last few years. Their profitability has also scaled with volumes, as well as they've gotten into new products and customer segments. What's been driving the growth? It's expansion of their distribution. They've also secured larger distributors. Some of these have been dissatisfied with some of the service that they've received from the larger players. I mentioned that they've acquired a new direct customer that's in the microgrid space, and then they've also migrated to larger gen sets that get them into airports, hospitals, and these tend to be higher margin products as well. So, as we said, business is developing well. They will be well over 100 million this year, and profitability is also looking good. So, how will we lead Blue Star? How will we manage this business? So, Blue Star is a small entrepreneurial, founder-led business growing very rapidly, and now has become part of a large multi-billion euro business with thousands of employees. And we recognize the challenges here, and we're trying to be very thoughtful in how we integrate and work with Blue Star. So first off, Blue Star is part of our energy business. Energy is complementary, but different than our core engine business. And therefore, we are going to manage that similar to our green segment as separate from the rest of the business. Blue Star, we are going to keep that and manage it on a standalone basis so they can continue to do what they need to do. Going through due diligence, I spoke to some of their customers and distributors, and They said, what DEUTZ can do is make sure that Blue Star continues to do what they've always done. And that's what we're going to do. But we're also going to work with them on the integration. So there's some things we just have to do as a German publicly traded company on the governance side. So there are things around IT security. We have brought on an HR person because Doug and the COO hired everybody themselves, which they already had recognized was a little too much for them. And then bringing on a finance person to keep Doug out of some of those administrative points. There are commercial synergies here, and Blue Star is as excited about this as we are. We just had a growth workshop with their team last week where we brought a multifunctional team from their side together with a few of us, looking at, okay, how can we grow together out in the market? And I'll come to that actually, we had several opportunities. So service is one, continuing to work in distribution, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then just longer term, we believe there are a lot of things we can do, which comes down to this. We're excited about the growth opportunities this business provides on the energy side. How do DEUTZ and Blue Star, one and one, make more than two? Somebody asked me this recently. Well, several reasons. First, brand, customer relationships, our service business, geographic reach, and financial resources. So Doug himself says they're a relatively small company, growing though in North America, but not as well known as Cummins, CAT, MTU, et cetera. And so the DEUTZ brand is going to help provide some name recognition as they open up and continue to expand their distribution network. Customer relationships, I mentioned earlier, DEUTZ has relationships with customers like United Rentals, Sunbelt, the other rentals. Blue Star doesn't have those. That could also be an opportunity here. Service business, we have a network of DEUTZ power centers that Mark has talked about earlier. There's the opportunity to help fill holes in their dealer network, as well as potentially provide service where their current dealers do not provide service. Global reach, I mean, already there are some 60 hertz markets out there, and customers are interested in talking to them about whether they can serve them outside of North America. And then financial resources. So Doug, he owned the company himself. There were certain types of projects that he could just not get into because he can't take on a $10 million project. He's financing this himself. And if customers decides to push off the contract for 4, 5, 6 months, that's a financial hit to him. But then with DEUTZ, we'd be more willing to help with that. So not only in expanding the business in North America, I believe that this provides a lot of synergies from the growth perspective. When you look at our intention to expand globally, we believe that this also gives us a platform to jump from as well. So our ambition is to build a global business. So it's not just to stop with energy in North America. So naturally, we have our position with Blue Star. We can continue to grow in North America. But then when you look at Europe or the EMEA region, we have a business, Maggie DEUTZ, which is focused on the telecom markets in North America, relatively small. But we believe there are opportunities to continue to expand that through the African region, potentially some segments in Europe. But then we also believe that we'll need to develop some partnerships in Europe to address that market. India, so we announced our TAFE partnership. We believe the Indian market could be interesting from both a local market and export perspective. And then we'll have to think about how to play there, potentially with partners as well. Then we've got some joint ventures in China. We also have the hydrogen project in China. So we're looking at how can we use that as a springboard to the rest of Asia Pacific potentially. And then Latin America, what you see is Latin America gets served from European players, Chinese players, as well as North American players. And then given that where we want to go, we believe that we can also play a role there. So it's not completely thought out. We've started with Blue Star. That's the first major step here. And we're working on the rest, so there'll be more to come. And our ambition is to create a 500 million euro business by 2030. You could say sounds ambitious. I mean, we started out with a 25, 30 million euro business with Maggie DEUTZ. We just added Blue Star, which is going to significantly grow that. We believe both businesses can continue to scale up, which can take it to 200, 300 million euro over that time frame, which leaves us a gap. But we believe that, or actually I'm confident that we're going to be able to close that, and that the 500 million will end up being a conservative estimate. So with that, I will hand over to Sebastian.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David, on the insights on energy and Blue Star in particular. And to round that up before the break, I mean, as you just said, the same you said for energy applies for solutions. Well, it's not a surprise because a fundamental part of that, coming from barely anything in 24, below 100 million, 2.9, below 1 billion, obviously the growth rate is significant. On the other hand, we've shown it already with one significant acquisition such as Blue Star. It's a major stepping point. But to sum it up again, new technology, we heard from Bert, really building up that business where we've got the products already in line with market demand, scaling after 26, as we just heard, and with a hydrogen business ramping up again when the demand is there. Energy, it is the three blocks, so to speak. Maggie DEUTZ, the existing small business in North Africa, Blue Star, and others like we just heard, and with a lot of potential which we have not factored into the plans out of China, because we see the potential, but we also see the challenges. So that's why we don't want to promise large numbers out of China. But you should know there is potential without us quantifying it. And then strategy speedboats, which we don't know yet what they look like. That's why you see zero number in that. But we're convinced that over the next years, we're going to find more opportunities out there. So if you compare this with what we've seen earlier on classic and on service, it is less specific. But I think that's clear, that's part of the nature of the business. So it'll take courage for us to go that way. And I'm convinced and quite proud actually that we said we took the courage with the acquisition of Blue Star, which so far works out pretty well. And we'll continue with that approach of courage, but always under the guidelines that the growth needs to be profitable.